After being reincarnated into a new world, Cain Silford has been quite busy. Between becoming a baron and dealing with his excitable fiancées and constantly giving the king headaches with his over-the-top displays of power, Cain has very little free time. What little he can manage to make is used to go register at the Adventurers Guild, a dream he had since he was but a child. Before he can really work on being an adventurer, though, he's pulled into a whole different realm to be trained by the first king of the empire, another reincarnated Japanese man, Yuya. Training under Yuya, Cain becomes more powerful than ever and learns of his parents who perished fighting the dark god Eren. Now that he's back in S-Fort after the brutal training with Yuya, Cain has to explain just where he's been to the king, Rex and Prime Minister Magna. Though he prepared a written report for them, most of the facts are simply so extraordinary that they have to hear it from him face to face to believe him. When Cain tells them he was training with the first king Yuya, who is now the god of creation, living in a world of his own creation, they are understandably dumbfounded. Regardless, they train Cain and believe he's telling the truth, especially after he shows them the first king's personal katana, which has been gifted to him. After that, he explains the training methods employed by Yuya to make him stronger and just casually mentions that it was a 5-year-long matter. Of course, this once again leaves the others stumped, but at this point, they just take it in stride. With the meeting coming to an end, Rex informs Cain that an issue with his quest progress may result in his Adventurers Guild registration being cancelled soon. Turns out he forgot to accept the A-rank quest he was meant to take much sooner. After rushing to the guild and meeting up with the guild master, Cain apologizes for not taking any quests since he registered. To be fair, he hasn't really had much free time in a while. Guildmaster Eric admits to being aware that he's been away on some business recently, mainly because his sister Tijuana, Cain's fiancée, hasn't been able to stop complaining about him being gone. Overbearing spouses aside, Eric reminds Cain about the quest he was required to complete when he was promoted, or rather registered as an A-rank adventurer straight off the bat. With the time limit on that quest being nearly over, Cain's going to have to accept it as soon as possible. Of course he does just that, accepting it on the spot. The quest is just to beat and capture some bandits operating on the path from Gracia to the capital. Immediately after the meeting with Eric, Cain heads straight to the area the bandits are suspected to be in. Using flight, he takes to the sky and scans the forest below him to find his targets. Before long, he spots them attacking none other than his old masters, Millie and Nina. Without a second thought, Cain rushes to their aid. Despite the bandits' mockery of him, Cain faces them calmly and with a controlled anger. In just a few swift moves, with Yuya's still sheathed katana, Cain takes a lot of them down, needing only minimal effort to do so. He even mentions that it's tough to hold back so much. When he speaks with his masters, he explains how he already is an A-rank, shocking them at his immense growth. As they return to the city, Cain learns his masters are escorting Sabinos, the father of his friend Parma. When they drop him off at his home, Parma lets slip that Cain is now a baron, shocking Millie and Nina yet again. Later, the three return to the guild to report on the success of their quests. While there, Cain scares off some thugs trying to hit on Millie, which alerts Claude to his presence. The adventurers come again, eager to meet the young prodigy once more, only to be surprised by Millie's presence. It turns out Claude is actually her older brother. Once they're all done reintroducing themselves along with their relations to each other, the group of four plus Claude's wife grab a table for a drink. As they're drinking, Claude also makes the shocking discovery of Cain's A-rank status, though he finds it much easier to accept since he's facing him in battle personally. It's definitely much more surprising for him when he learns the kid's a baron now, though. The two masters also show off the magic bags he made for them, prompting Lena to request one of her own, a request he's happy to oblige. As Cain leaves early, telling them he needs to go to school tomorrow, the others hatch up a plan. From their conversation, it's pretty clear he's quite isolated from his peers. With that in mind, they create an absolutely ridiculous scheme to go to his school as guest teachers and show him off to his classmates as some kind of hero. Sure enough, the next day sees Cain being a victim of their weird plan, between having to make up an excuse to not show the class his A-rank guild card and being forbidden from magic training. It's far from a fun time. Later, the adventurer takes the class outside for combat training. Here's Claude's plan is to spar the students so that they can see how strong he is. Then at the end, he'll fight Cain and display his far superior abilities. This is meant to make Cain out as some kind of idol for his peers, but Claude doesn't consider that it may just make him jealous. That's not really a problem though, since he ends up misjudging how much time they have for the class. By the time Cain's turn finally comes around, the bell rings before they can actually fight. Later that night, Cain goes on a rampage in the forest, infuriated by Claude messing up the one part of his day that could have been fun. The next day, Cain gets called to meet with the king. Turns out the Prince of Darkness has rained destruction down on the Forest of Monsters last night and put the whole city on alert. Yeah, that's definitely it. Sure was an M. Cain's class at the academy are told their latest lesson is to be in summoning magic. For the purpose of supervising them, a mage from the royal army named Grat has been called in. After handing everyone little slips with summoning runes on them, Grat tells them to go ahead and pour as much magic as they can into them. This will summon a creature based on the level of their power and give them the chance to form a contract with them if the summon finds them worthy. Of course, that's not really a good idea when it comes to Cain and his extremely juiced up power, but Grat doesn't know this. When Cain's turn arrives and he pumps the maximum amount of magic into it, he ends up summoning a demon, and not just any demon either, but the Crown Prince of Darkness himself. Thinking fast, Cain casts Flash, a spell that leaves everyone else present stunned and locked so they don't see this. The Prince of Darkness Seth seems hostile at first. The second he takes a look at Cain's status though, he instantly drops to his hands and knees and begs to become Cain's servant. He keeps swearing loyalty for himself and his demon army to Cain, and claims they'll gladly destroy any nation he wants them to. Offended by such an assumption and more than a little weirded out, Cain sends Seth back, but not before forming the contract. Once the others recover, Cain just tells them he accidentally summoned a demon, but it went away since he wasn't strong enough for it. Later, Cain and Grat are called in for a meeting with the King Rex and Magna. Here the king tells Grat that nothing that's spoken of in this room may be spoken of outside. If Seth swore loyalty to Cain so easily, his power must have grown immensely. With Grat now in on the secret, he asks Cain to show them his status. After all, they haven't really viewed it since before his 5-year training with King Yuya. What they see is far more than they were prepared for though. Not only are Cain's stats now displayed only as immeasurable, but his own status has changed to demigod. More than a little intimidated but aware of his good nature, the king tells Cain that he must be promoted to a viscount. With this, he'll be given a whole territory to manage. If he can show himself to be successful at the task, the king will publicly announce his engagement to Telestia and Silk. Later at his mansion, Cain receives a summon from his older brother, Jin, back to their hometown. There he learns that monsters in the Forest of Monsters have been growing in both number and aggression a lot recently. Based on past occurrences, all signs are pointing to an onslaught happening. An event where monsters come out of the forest and attack everything in sight. After assuming his brother that he's more than strong enough to handle it, Cain heads out to investigate the matter. At the local guild, he meets Millie and Nina who have arrived for the same reason as him, telling them to keep watch on the town. Cain heads to the forest to scout. Here he summons Seth and asks him to investigate the forest since his own senses are being blocked. In response, Seth summons a servant of his own, Dalmatia, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the past. He specializes in detection skills while they get to searching. Cain kills off a bunch of unique monsters and takes them back to the guild. Claude and Lena have arrived as well, and they're left speechless at the sight of the new monsters Cain has killed. After telling them to watch over the town as well, Cain heads back to the forest with Seth in tow. He does have to reassure Tuana though, who has also been sent as reinforcements along with her unit. Once they arrive in the forest, Cain, Seth, and Dalmatia face the direction the monsters are coming from together. It's clear now who's responsible for this. The Dark Being, one of unimaginable power, that's drawing all these monsters out is none other than the Dark God Aaron. While Cain's human and demo allies both focus on keeping the monsters from leaving the forest, he himself heads further in to find Aaron. Before long, he finds his target. Since his full body has yet to be restored, the former god of amusement has possessed the body of a massive black dragon. Determined to win, they both fire at each other with powerful attacks. Dark energy roars from the dragon and streams of fire from Cain. Unfortunately for Cain, Aaron is powerful enough to keep him on the defensive, even in his partially restored state. At one point, he fires a massive attack at Cain, summon Haku. Desperate to protect his friend, Cain jumps in the path of the beam and puts him all into stopping it. Aaron keeps going on about how Cain is a pawn of the gods, but he's not having any of that. Yelling with all the power he can muster, Cain declares that all that matters to him is making sure the ones he loves can keep their smiles. Swiping the attack to the side, Cain engages the dragon in another clash. Finally, enraged by the dark god's taunts about his parents and determined to protect the ones he loves, Cain lets loose. He calls forth the power of Overlord, the ability his father used against Aaron in the past. Shining with a blinding golden light, Cain powers up his own attack, enough to wipe his opponent clean off the face of the planet, along with a few miles of forest behind him. Whoops! After reuniting with his friends in a heartwarming scene, Cain is called once again to meet the king. It's great that S-Fort's being saved, but there's one small problem. The golden energy that's shown up into the sky from his attack looked like a massive pillar of divine light. Now the people think the gods have descended to their lands, which is not ideal. Honestly, at this point, the king's so tired of Cain's antics that he's tempted to just hand him the throne and bugger off. Unfortunately for him, it's a little too soon for that. Later, a ceremony is held to give Cain the territory that comes with his Viscount status. The one he's been granted is known as Dorenthal. After the ceremony though, Telestia is furious as Dorenthal is well known for having a corrupt adventurers guild that deals in all sorts of shady acts. Before she can give her father a piece of her mind though, Cain tells her it's alright. If anything, he's quite excited by this. Sure enough, not even a few days later, the king receives news of Cain's exploits from a messenger. It turns out he's caused extensive property damage, beaten up most of the guild, gotten arrested, made an enemy of the church, ambushed a group of extra corrupt adventurers, and raised a castle with his magic that's even greater than the king's own. And they don't even know about how he and his fiancées have met Set's wife and agreed with her on punishing the Prince of Darkness for being a womanizer. Though it may seem absolutely crazy to most, it's just another day in the life for the reincarnated hero known as Cain von Silford. The end, for now. Thanks for watching. If you like this recap, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to be notified of any new recaps. And while you're at it, check out this new anime recap appearing on the screen.